Hey everybody, welcome back to Gideon Stuff. Today we're taking a look at a kind of neat little knife. This is honestly kind of a surprising review. We're reviewing the Reapr Brigade fixed blade. So let's go ahead and jump right into this, shall we? I think we shall. Blade length on this guy, about 5 inches overall length, about 10 inches, 9 3/4. So, you know, as far as fixed blades go, I would say this is kind of a mid-size fixed blade. Let's go ahead and bring out our size comparisons. I don't think we're going to do too many of that. Well, you know what, might as well. There is the Rat Model 2. Where did the Model 1 go? There it is. Here's the Rat Model 1. Awesome. We'll compare against our USA made comparisons just because. There's our Spyderco PM2, our Benchmade bug out, and let's compare against a couple of, fixed blades, and specifically 2 fixed blades I'm probably going to be mentioning several times throughout this review. First up, the Cold Steel SRK. I think you can probably see some similarities between these two, and the Gerber Strong Arm. There we go. What are we looking at for our materials? Let's go ahead and get these knives out of the way. G10 scales with a full tang 420 HC blade. And the sheath is nylon with a little loop here, belt loop here, and metal snaps. Let's go ahead and get to actually there's a lot of footage to get to with this guy. We've got some testing footage, we've got review cutting, we've got some disassembly stuff. Let's just jump right into it. Alrighty guys, so I'm trying to get the review for the Reapr Brigade done, and so past couple of days I've been really focused on this knife, using it, carrying it. I have not started doing any of the heavy duty testing yet, but can you hear that? The scales are loose. They've come loose just through normal testing. Now, I don't think this is a huge deal because these are Torx bits, so we should be able to tighten these scales down and fix the problem. But it was weird to me that these have loosened up so much just through the regular use. Can you hear that? Like clickety, clickety, clickety. You grab it and the scales shift. So right now, I actually kind of want to see what's under these scales. So we're going to take our T8 right here, and yeah, these screws are very, very loose. Yeah, so it's not going to be a difficult fix at all. It's going to be just a matter of tightening a couple of screws. But I do think it's kind of cool. Drop out those little fasteners. I do find it very cool that it is an actual 2-piece handle. So you do have bolsters. These pieces of G10 up here, these are separate. Really neat. This is definitely a knife that's, very easy for you to swap scales on. If that's something you're into, you can make your own scales, do something like that. If something happens to these scales, it won't be too hard to replace them. So there we go. We can see the inside of this knife, no skeletonization at all. That's one of the reasons why this thing is as heavy as it is. But let's go ahead and get these tightened back up and see if the shifting goes away, which I am 100% positive it will. Sorry if I seem a little bit tired. I just got back from work. These are T8s. By the way, the ones up here on the bolster parts, I think are T6s though. And I could, actually, I don't have my Loctite with me right here, but probably wouldn't be a bad idea to Loctite these things. Holy cow. Yikes. So using my Weehaw bits right there, these screws here are very soft. Oh my goodness, very, very soft. They just about stripped out, which that's not good, but yeah, all the shifting is gone, completely back to normal, nice and solid. We'll see how it holds up for harder testing, which I hope to start here pretty soon. Hey guys, ready to talk about a knife? I sure am. Reapr Brigade. Doing the review cutting for this knife. I have been using this. I haven't had a chance to really use this knife a whole lot yet, but I figured I'd do the review cutting first before I take this out in the woods and beat the snot out of it in case I break it in half or something, you know. So, let's go ahead and talk about the ergos. Not my favorite. They're not bad, but I think they'd be drastically improved if this was removed. For my hand personally, it just doesn't fit that well. The balance on this thing is also way, way off. Yeah, it balances about there. No milling under the scales at all, just solid steel, very, very back heavy. Yeah, that affects the ergos in a whole bunch of ways, but it could be worse, like I said, and if I like kind of get 2 fingers up here, I can get behind that edge, and this is actually not a bad grip, but we still have the balance issue. Let's go ahead and talk about the carry. So here's the sheath. It's a nylon sheath. You can put the knife in either way, ambidextrous, so that's cool. We've got a little dang thing here you can attach to something. We've got some straps here, and then we've got a belt loop here. So let's go ahead and put that on the belt so you guys can see what we're working with here. Oh, and the scales are G10, in case I didn't mention. So they also add a little bit of weight to the handle. There we go. That's how it looks. That's how it carries. Pretty much your only option for it, unless you're throwing it in a pack or something. So, not the most high quality sheath system, but I guess it will work. Let's go ahead and cut some stuff. We have a clip point 420 HC blade with a hollow grind. A very shallow hollow grind. Go ahead and get into some cardboard. Remember this box? I'm not sure if I told you guys the story, but this box blew into my yard after a windstorm a while back. There's a big box. This is the last piece of it. I've already used all of it for review cutting. So, something else. Now, I would not say that that is the most amazing slicing performance, but this isn't really a knife that's meant for slicing. So as far as cutting goes, I think that was fine. I'm not going to complain too much about that. Let's go ahead, do a rope cut. Ooh, yeah, that felt beautiful, beautiful. All right, let's tilt down a little lower. Let's go ahead and do some pushes. 1, 2, 3. Yep, that felt pretty good. That felt pretty good. Which is what I was expecting from a knife like this. This is a big, robust, fixed blade, survival type knife. Yeah, I expect it to be good at those more harder cutting tasks. Pool noodle. Curious to see what goes on here. All right, so first cut, I tried to go very thin just because we couldn't quite get it. Not necessarily surprising, you know. This is a thicker knife, so it did kind of just chew through that back part. Went a little bit thicker with this one, we had a little bit of waviness going on here. I went thickest with this one here, and it cut pretty good. So as far as a fixed blade of this type goes, I would say the performance is very average for what we did right here. Nothing really to write home about, but nothing I'm going to get too upset about, especially at the price that this knife comes in at. So there we go. I guess it gets a passing grade. Let's get back to the table or whatever testing we're going to show next. Alrighty guys, I think it's pretty clear that the Reapr Brigade is kind of trying to be an alternative to the Cold Steel SRK. It has a lot of similarities, especially in this blade. As a lot of you know, the Cold Steel SRK is what I consider to be the greatest budget survival knife of all time. I love that knife so much. And so we're going to test the Reapr Brigade and see if it holds up at all. You know, we'll see what happens. We're going to do some chopping. We're going to do some batoning. I'm going to do some whittling. I was going to do a little like building a fire, maybe even doing a shelter. But a couple things. Number one, I'm in the Sacramento Mountains right now, Otero County, Lincoln National Forest. There's a fire ban right now. And because I'm not an asshole, I'm going to respect that. We're not going to be making any fires. The other thing is I've just been so busy. I don't have much time out here today. Unfortunately, I wish I did, but I don't have a whole lot of time, so we're not going to be building a shelter and spending the night or anything like that. I want to do a video like that sometime, but it's not this video. So, yeah, with that out of the way, I do have a couple of other knives here with me that I'm also doing like review cutting and testing for today, namely the Cold Steel Fin Hawk, and actually, I didn't think about it till now, but the Cold Steel Spartan too. So maybe we'll have some points of comparison with this guy. I do have my SRK in the truck, but I've already done a lot of like videos with the SRK. You can go and check those out to see how it performs. And also, I'm not going to compare them directly head to head because this is a different knife in a lot of ways. But I do want to compare. I do want to test it on its own merits and see if I think it stands up to SRK quality. All right, let's go find some stuff to chop. All right, I went and gathered up some wood. Before we start in on that, though, I do want to say a couple things about the sheath. This sheath is not my favorite sheath design ever. Absolutely not. But it does work. I was out here gathering the wood, jumping around through the brambles and stuff. It works all right. Keeps the knife actually pretty snug against the side of my body. So, you know, it's not too bad. All right, so we're going to go ahead and start off with a little bit of, maybe, you know what, maybe we'll start off with some whittling, just to see what that's like. We do have a rather substantial blade stock, so I'm hoping this thing is a good, you know, batoner. That's it compared to the Fin Hawk, but we'll see. Let's actually start off with a little bit of whittling. Or, you know what, here's what we're going to do. We're going to whittle this aspen. I've got a couple of different woods here. We've got aspen, got some hard, dry pine, got some fir. You know, we'll do a little bit of everything. But right now, actually, I want to get this split into segments, and we will whittle on the segments. So let's go ahead and start that off. And I thought this big tree would make a pretty nice little bench to, like, workstation. I'm kind of thinking it won't, though. But, you know what? We've come this far. We might as well continue, right? Maybe I'll use this guy to whittle a bushcraft club. I think this tree has too much give. Let's go find a better surface. All right, well, we found this nice big stump. Sun might be a little bit bad, but we will deal with it. Okay, this stump might even be too big, too. All right, we're gonna set that over there. We're gonna reuse this baton. All right, let's go ahead, split this stick, this aspen. Or actually, you know what? let's start off with this pine. We'll split this pine into segments and whittle them and see how that goes. Whew. The shock absorption on that handle is not great at all. I was kind of afraid of that. So right away the handle fails when compared to the SRK. We're getting through it. Maybe. That is harder wood. Let's go ahead and switch. We'll do the aspen. See what happens here. And you know what? We'll use a bigger club. Yeah, there we go. Ooh. You know, I like the smell of aspen when it just breaks, but like when you're cutting it with a chainsaw, I think it stinks. Aspen fires, I hate because they stink, but you know what? I'm actually not displeased with those curls. That was really nice. All right, let's go. Let's see if we can get some. The ergos. The ergos are kind of gonna be probably my biggest gripe with this knife. Let's see here. Yeah, I'm actually not displeased at all with this thing's ability to make curls. Now, if this was like a really pitchy piece of pine that was a little bit thinner, yeah, this would be great for making feather sticks or other types of fire starters. I am not displeased with that at all. I'm actually rather impressed. I want to grab this thing real quick. Just break it down to a little bit of a more manageable size. And let's go ahead and sharpen it. Break those little knots out. Our handle's loosened up again. Shouldn't be a problem. I am actually... This is doing better with the wood than I was expecting. I am not displeased at all. Bad control there. I broke that off where I was anticipating it. Let's see if you guys... Scratched my arm pretty good. And if you look at the end of that, I'm not sure if you can see, it's just a chunk of my arm hair. That's delightful. Yeah, I'm actually not displeased with this at all. I do wish now that I was like maybe back home in the woods out there, so I could do a fire and do some camping. I think that'd be really, really. I think it'd actually be a really fun video. All right, let's go ahead and do a notch. See what we end up with here. So there we go. It's a bit of a longer knife, but I lost control of it a little bit there. Let's go ahead and yeah. Not a bad notcher. Not a bad notcher. I like doing that, like making, you know, a tent steak with a knife. So as far as like whittling goes, is it going to be the best thing ever? No, it's not going to be better than a Scandi grind or something like that. But it's good. I'm fairly pleased with it. So, in fact, I'm absolutely pleased with it. Good job. All right, let's go ahead and do some batoning real quick. We're going to go through this piece here. It's a big piece, but I think that's okay. This one does already have a split right here, so we're going to start with that. All right, not bad. This piece has a bunch of knots in it, so we're going to go ahead and do it as well. And this one does not already have a good split. We're going to have to do it all ourselves. You know what? It's not bad. Well, so far the Reapr Brigade is actually impressing me a good amount, more than I was expecting from it. My biggest complaint is this handle, so let's chop some stuff with no gloves and really push that shock absorption to the limit. Yeah, and those scales are pretty wobbly, but let's see what we got. Yeah, we're not going to chop all the way through that. Youch. Yeah, the handle, not great. Not great. You can probably see the, yeah. And I can feel those scales getting looser and looser. Well, guys, for some reason my camera decided to just stop recording, which is super annoying, so I lost some test footage. We did a little more batoning. We did a little more chopping, chopped some smaller stuff. And, yeah, the handles are very loose. I'm not going to refilm any of that, guys. I'm sorry, but I'm losing daylight, and I'm a busy guy. I gotta say, I really, really miss working as a cowboy in the summers. That gave me so many opportunities to test knives like this, right? I was out in the woods all the time. I was building shelters, I was camping, I was making fires, I was doing all this stuff. It was great. And now I gotta just, when I have a break in my schedule, I have to try and run out here to the mountains and do a little bit of testing while I can. And yeah, it sucks. It sucks. It does suck. But, you know, these are the cards we've been dealt. That's what I gotta do. So here's what the knife looks like after testing today. It had basically no wear on it before today, so this coating is not super impressive, but for 35 bucks, I wasn't really expecting that much. There we go. The scales, very, very wobbly. You can probably, can you see that, hear it? Yeah, let's actually see how sharp it is. I've got an old state park stub here that I didn't finish filling out because, well, my partner had already filled one out. All right. All right, so we got a pretty big spot up here. Another one there. Yeah. Shouldn't be too hard to touch up though. And honestly, not bad. Not bad. For a $35 knife, not bad. Alrighty guys, so here's the Reapr Brigade cleaned up after the testing. So there's what the damage really looks like. The coating, nothing especially durable, but I'm not super surprised to be honest with you. I will say when my camera conked out, holy crap, I need a haircut. Like it's been a while. I need a haircut. This is getting annoying. Anyways, like gosh dang. Anyways, one of the things that I lost that didn't get recorded was I did a tip retention test, and hope you guys can kind of see that. We did break off just a little bit of the tip at the very, very end. So I think we'll be able to sharpen that up. It's really not even a break. It's more like just the tip chipped off. But real quick, we are going to screw the handles back on. Yeah, this scale here, very, very loose. So let's go ahead, take those off. Yeah, these screws just backed out like butter, like very, very easily. Let's see, which side do I have here? Oh, that's the one side. I want to take this side off. We're going to go ahead and Loctite these. Hopefully that keeps them in better. The handle on this knife is by far my biggest complaint with the entire design. I am not a fan of this handle in a lot of ways. I do kind of like the aesthetic that they were going for, with this kind of bolstered look, but I don't think the execution paid off. So we got our Loctite here. Let's go ahead, and I'm actually going to put a good amount on these screws because a fixed blade gets used pretty rough, and I think, yeah, it'd be good to have these really, really stuck in there. I do appreciate though that they do have Torx bits instead of just like crappy pins. If this was a pinned handle that was coming apart this easily, that'd be a big issue. Would the handle come apart this easily if it was pinned rather than bolted? I don't know. That is a conversation we could have. But I do like that they do have bolts here because that gives you opportunities for customization. The hardware is very, very soft though. Holy cow, it's not my favorite thing in the world. Soft hardware, I think, should be illegal. There we go, those are all on. We did test the sharpness out there. I'm gonna sharpen this guy up real quick. We're just gonna use the work sharp. I like seeing how a knife sharpens up by just using this because This is a sharpener I have with me most of the time, and if I can get a good edge on a knife just using this, I think that is good. Not a big fan of the sharpening choil area here. You can see that. I might actually get my Dremel and cut in a better choil, because the plunge grind, okay, the plunge grind is actually fine. The plunge grind is fine, but for some reason, they didn't cut this area, this little ricasso area out very well. So we'll see. We will see. Just go ahead and give this guy a couple of passes and I'll come back to you. All right, there we go. That didn't take very long at all. I did get that tip fixed. Hope you can see that. Got a nice pokey tip on here again. It's funny, I knew that there was at least the 2 chips in the edge from yesterday when we were out in the mountains. Gosh, this hair is bothering me. Especially after I shower, it's all fluffy. I hate it. Need to go get a haircut. Anyways, I knew there was those 2 chips, but then as I was sharpening, you know, it's funny, they become more and more apparent. So fixing those 2 chips took a little bit longer. You can see here, I was cutting the paper as I went, feeling them out. But the knife itself now, nice and sharp, good to go, completely in working order. There it is. And yeah, sharpened up really, really nicely. I did take it through both grits of the diamonds on the ceramic and the strop. And 420 steel, sharpened up very, very nicely. That is a very impact resistant steel for a stainless steel. So overall, I am decently pleased with the performance on this guy. All right, let's go ahead and see how well this thing strikes a fire steel, just because. Actually, it's throwing really good sparks. I put this in here just in case. I mean, we may not be able to get anything to light, but I mean, look at that, yeah. That's throwing good sparks. Not upset about that at all. And now we gotta go and clean the blade again, but yeah. Not shabby. Before we get back to finish up the rest of the review, I do want to mention that I several times say that I call this knife a $35 knife. That's how much I bought this for at a Tractor Supply. I looked around online and you can find these for like 23 to 27 bucks. So for a $25 knife, that's actually not bad at all. This is not bad at that price. So keep that in mind as you watch the rest of this, and at the end of the video when I say, oh yeah, it's a $35 knife, blah, 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 just kind of in your head be like, oh, 25 bucks. Alrighty, welcome back to those of you who are still watching. It's gonna be a long video, but hope you guys get some good info out of it. Let's go ahead and talk about what I'm liking and not liking about this knife. Number one, I do like the overall looks. I do think that this handle is interesting. It's kind of vibrant, kind of different, but still has some of those like kind of outdoorsy / tactical vibes. I do like the multicolored G10. We got kind of this black bolster, the tan G10 here. I think that's cool. To be honest, I do like the looks of this. This blade, very, very similar to the Cold Steel SRK. And that's not bad. I do like these straight clip point blades. A straight clip point is my favorite outdoor blade style. I think they're just so versatile. You know, you got some straight, got a little bit of belly. The tip is low enough that you can use it for drag cuts or drilling. Yeah, it's just a really great blade shape. I enjoy it a whole lot. Probably, like I said, my favorite outdoor blade shape. So yeah, overall looks, I really enjoy. Next up, I do like the size of this knife. This is a very, very nice size for a kind of all-arounder, tactical, outdoor, survival fixed blade. And I think that's what this knife is going for. And that's a genre that I really, really like. What's the difference between outdoor, tactical, and survival? Tactical, obviously, that's more combat related. Outdoor uses, I consider that to be things like camping or general utility around a campsite out in a cabin. When I was working as a cowboy, obviously I carried my fixed blade and I used it a lot in all kinds of different tasks, not just camping, but construction, day-to-day utility. I broke down a lot of pallets, cut hay string, a lot of irrigation, tarp, lots of ropes. And then the survival knife is a knife that's kind of like, oh shit style camping. It's unplanned camping, right? And so you want a knife that you can kind of force into a bunch of different roles. It's not just a knife anymore. It's also a pry bar. It's also a chisel. It's also a hatchet now. And I think this knife, and in terms of design and size, fits really well into those three categories. Now let's go ahead and start talking about the utility. I was actually pretty impressed using this knife. I'll be honest with you guys, I did not have super high hopes. I thought this would be middling to poor performance. But honestly, I would say that this had good performance. It's very, very solid. As you guys saw from the assembly, there is no milling back here in the handle. This is all just one solid piece of steel, fairly thick and robust. So it is quite durable. Like I said, I did break the very end of the tip off. You can see there when I reprofiled that tip, brought it back, which is very easy to do. The end of this knife is very slender. I mean, let's bring out the SRK and compare the two. You can see here that this knife is overall slimmer than the SRK. And especially there at the tips, you can see this is a little bit daintier. I don't mind that. I think the SRK actually has a good tip for what you're dealing with. The SRK's tip I've used for drilling, I've used for all kinds of things, including prying. I find it to be a very useful tip. This is a very nice and pokey, slashy, stabby tip. Maybe more for your tactical applications, or even suited for just regular utility. That this knife comes down to a fairly thin edge, and so it's going to cut decently. Now the grind is not very tall, so like breaking down cardboard, you're going to hit that. You go from this hollow to this very abrupt shelf here. That's going to affect you in tasks like that, but when it comes to cutting rope and things, very, very effective blade. We already talked about why I like this straight clip point. I really do. Great utility blade shape. The steel here, this 420, not a personal favorite of mine, but it is the same steel that the Gerber Strong Arm uses. And as far as its application in fixed blades like this, especially at the price, I actually do think this was the right choice. It's a stainless steel, but it also has pretty high toughness for a stainless steel. So you're going to be getting a lot of good work out of it. It's easy to sharpen and touch up. In the field, you can easily maintain this knife, and I think that is one of the most important things for an outdoor tactical survival knife is easy maintenance, because you're going to be putting this knife through some pretty horrendous applications. But yeah, the blade itself works really, really nicely. Don't have many complaints about that. I'm going to talk about the sheath real quick. The sheath is not my favorite thing. We are going to complain about the sheath a little bit, but it is completely ambidextrous. You can put this knife in this way, that way. You can carry this left side, right side. It's really awesome. And to be fair, the sheath is not bad. It does keep the knife snug against the side of your body. And yeah, it works. But yeah, we'll get back to the sheath. Yeah, we've got a lanyard hole here. Appreciate that. I think that's a good feature. I always like to have lanyard holes available for fixed blades. I don't carry any of my fixed blades with a permanent lanyard, but I do like the ability to put a lanyard on if I need to. There's been several times where I'm like, okay, I'm going to be doing some chopping or something. I'm going to put a lanyard on my knife just so I can get a better grip. It's a good thing to have. Okay, so yeah, those are kind of my pros. Good overall design, and it is very durable, and this blade does perform very well. Let's move on to some of my cons. I hate the balance on this knife. It is so butt heavy. So butt heavy. I mean, we can see the point of balance is about there, about with this screw. There's no milling in here. It throws the weight of this knife off a whole lot. And even though a knife like this isn't necessarily meant to be a chopper, I mean, let's look at the SRK, see where it balances. Right there, love that. Look at that. Oh, amazing, beautiful, perfect, gorgeous. Mwah. Love you, SRK. You guys have seen I have chopped very effectively with the SRK. I've chopped trees down with the SRK. This knife is not a very good chopper. It's a little bit shorter, but also the balance is just terrible. In addition, the handle I really am not a big fan of. Number one, the scales come loose very, very easily. I guess something I could have included in the pros is that it makes it easy to customize. It makes it easy to swap the scales. I do appreciate that they have, Torx hardware here, but the scales come loose readily. I've Loctited it now. We've let it sit. We'll see what happens, right? But I'm not a big fan of that. The other thing is the scales aren't fitted exactly perfect. We can see if we zoom in here, you can see there's a lip of the steel, and I don't think that's intentional because it's not consistent all the way around. You can see back here, some places it's pretty much flush, but then other places it's not. It's also very blocky. It's a very, very blocky handle. For me, the ergos don't work out that great. If I want to get up here, this little point is right in my finger. If I choke back, it's fine, but the way this knife is balanced, like this just, it doesn't feel easy to use. So not a big fan of these ergos at all. The shock absorption is terrible. Even when I was just whittling, the hot spots, I could feel hot spots. Was not a huge fan of that at all. The handle, I think, would be greatly, greatly improved if they went with something that's overmolded, like on the SRK, or even the strong arm too. And if they just knocked this off. If they got rid of that, I think this handle would be a lot better. But yeah, I was not a fan of this handle at all. Really, really not a fan. Another thing, there was a slight recurve in the blade, not very much, and you can see that I sharpened this guy once, and I've already pretty much got rid of that recurve. There's still probably a little bit of it left. Yeah, you can see there. A little bit of a recurve left, not very bad anymore. It was a little bit worse. I'm not going to say that's necessarily a negative thing because it is easy to sharpen it out and just get a straight edge, but I'm listing it as a negative because I'm not sure it was intentional. They kind of messed up this area back here, as I said during the sharpening. The plunge grind isn't terrible, but they didn't cut this ricasso area right. You can see there the black coming on the blades coming up into the edge there. So I might get a Dremel and take that out. Then it'd be really, really nice. The other thing too is there's a little bit of a waviness up here. I'm not sure if I can show that, but yeah, maybe you guys can see that. Yeah, can you see that? How there's like a bump in the middle of that clip? See that? That's really weird. I think that's another grinding error. It doesn't really affect performance that much, but it's just a little bit of a kind of weird quality control thing. Like, you guys missed something. And the sheath. Not a big fan of nylon sheaths. And this sheath really does not give you any kind of alternative carry options at all. It's just belt loop. You have this little thing here, so I guess you can hang it from something. See, the sheath is just very, very simple and not my favorite thing ever. But that's about it. Let's go ahead and get on to my final conclusions. And we're going to start off by saying that this was a $35 knife. For 35 bucks, I don't think this is bad. My biggest complaint with the knife is the handle. I do not like the handle at all. I don't like the balance on this thing at all. But it's solid. You can strike a fire steel, which actually this is a better fire steel striker than the SRK. And I brought out the SRK and the Strong Arm because in a lot of ways, I feel like this knife is what you would get if these two knives had a baby, right? I like both these knives a lot. The SRK, obviously one of my favorite knives ever. And this knife here has some good elements of both, but it also kind of lacks the build quality and some of the magic features that make those two knives such classics. Can I recommend this knife though? Actually, yes. For 35 bucks, I think this is an excellent budget beater fixed blade. I was actually very surprised by the performance. The chopping sucked, but the whittling, the batoning, the overall durability was a little bit better than I was expecting it to be. And I feel like this is a knife that could survive some abuse. And honestly, there's potential for customization on the handles. It's a cool knife. It's a cool knife. And I'm going to leave you guys with that because this video is going to be long enough. Big shout out to my channel members. Thank you guys for everything you do for the channel. These are my members at the cowboy level. If you want to be a member, there's a link below. If you enjoyed this video, leave it a like, comment below, and subscribe. I've been Gideon, and I'll see you in the next one. Adios.